Hi, I'm Randy Goodwin. I'm going to talk about today about a chimera, how a chimera is made within the womb of a woman. A chimera, what do I mean when I say that? Well, simply put, it's going to share, the makeup and the DNA and or coding within the womb of the woman in that egg, in that fertilized egg, and it's going to have other identities, DNA, and it's all going to be conflicting. It's all going to be different. That is or has been deposited in the egg, the womb of that woman for that child that's going to be born, not reborn. So when that original egg gets fertilized, after about 1 to 2 days after that point, after conception, it will split into a second cell. And that second cell is extremely important on the way the occult works, because that's what we're talking about here, is how the occult manipulates this process and allows and gets entities to enter into this future child that's going to be reborn. And many things are done prior to conception. Not going to get into all this. I have other videos you can watch, but there'll be rituals, vows, oaths, ceremonies, and doing this, and they will place seals upon it all. And it's hermetic magic seals. What they count on is one embryo consuming the other. And we're going to talk about that more detail. And the first and earliest stage of development, when that male sperm penetrates that original egg, it sets off a process, and it's supposedly not going to allow any other sperm to enter that egg. And like I said, 1 to 2 days or so, then it'll split into the second one, and it can even go into 4, and then it goes into this hyperdrive process where many cells are made. Well, there are 4 horns on the altar, and Jesus Christ is the ark. The 4 horns is always perverted by the enemy, and when those eggs split, that's a perversion of the altar of Christ. Now, information is in the egg, and it has all the information from all of the ancestors from years past. It carries the genetic code from the human, from every ancestor in its bloodline on the mother and the father's side, and even those who have donated to this whole process. The essence will remain intact from the parents, and through them, it will be genetically like a genetic fusing per se. And there's this neural network of genetic fusing in that future child that's going to be born. It contains the full set of chromosomes, 23 from the egg and 23 from the sperm. And this stage, like I said, it'll last a couple days, and then it goes into this stage called blastocyst, and it goes into hyperdrive, and that's all normal. Now they are going to install, like I said, the hermetic magic rituals, and twinning is done in mind control programming, and it's all cultic lines practice this. And this process is the key to creating a monarch mind control slave. This is where the sins and or the spirit of the sins of the fathers are visited down into the children. And in genetic precursor, it means the individual will go through experiences in their life, and it'll flip genetic switches where the DNA and the RNA will transmit to one to another, and the DNA will go into this child. Adam, when he was in the garden, used 100% of his brain. They say now we use 1/10 of 1% of our brain. When it twins, the twin will have the same, what we call the same wave structure, which is why many of them are able to use telepathy and long distance empathy and hyper emotional attachments. And that's why they can feel one from another. I'm going to go into some definitions, some basic definitions of this, and then we're going to get into this a little more. A zygote is just a fertilized egg, plain and simple. A monozygotic means identical twins, and they're formed of a single fertilized egg, a zygote, and it'll split into two separate embryos shortly after fertilization. A dizygotic twin is a result of the fertilizations of two separate eggs and by two separate sperm donors during the same pregnancy. Two separate people have different souls, different genetics, so on and so forth. And then there's the monoamniotic twins, which are extremely rare. Identical twins, they share the both same placenta and the amniotic sac. And then there's twin chimerization, where an individual will possess two distinct sets of a DNA, and it'll be formed in two fraternal embryos fused within the womb. One twin will essentially absorb the other twin. And during this process, there's hermetic magic, and they give this future child over to the god of this world. Well, that one twin that absorbs the weaker twin, after they absorb it, it will be one person, but it will have the genetic coding of the other one also. And that represents the first murder within the womb. And then there's tetragrammatic magic chimerization, to genetically, cybernetically, or biologically, from a living being, to incorporate these features from other species or unnatural traits. So they're going to take DNA and RNA from other species and incorporate that into the womb. So these genetic code will be absorbed into that future child that's going to be born. And there's gametization, and it creates chimerization. The sperm and the egg unite to form a genetically unique cell called a zygote. And this it'll merge the genetic material from both parents. Hermaphrodites are an obvious result of a chimera. They have two genetic codes of male and female. And just so you know, here's some examples of a chimera, and you can find this on Google if you want to research. Karen Keegan of 2002. She's a teacher in Boston who needed a kidney transplant. Well, she got genetically tested, and her family said that her sons were not genetically related to her. They stated that she had different DNA in her blood compared to the blood in her other tissues. And then there's Anna Paula Martins of 2025. She had XX chromosomes in her body, but the XY male chromosomes in her blood, two sets of chromosomes in her body, and resulting chimerization. Then there's Lydia Fairchild, 2002. And she was a major case, and she was definitely a chimera. She had DNA in the blood, and it did not match her children's DNA, but the DNA in her cervical tissue did match. There is a 2005, a male donor in a criminal case, and a man was almost convicted of a crime based on DNA evidence, but it was discovered he had received a bone marrow transplant from his brother, causing his blood to carry his brother's DNA, while his skin carried his own DNA. Now, whenever you get a transplant from anything in your body, you're going to carry or grab the genetic code from that other individual, and it's going to be in you now. Now, in the occult, they try to get several people into one body, but the person doesn't know that the other people or donors exist. Now, in a pure blood, there's going to be 7, and in a blue blood, there'll be 5. This is all done with hermetic magic seals from rituals for all this to take place, because the enemy comes in and twists and perverts the word of God. It will twin the mother to the twin and every other embryo that's been ingested. The surviving embryo will have 2 sets of cells. Some will be twins, and there'll be the DNA and RNA of other things that have been introduced also. When this happens, it can create a doppelganger on the other side of the brain, the dark side of the brain. And when they grow up, they'll be able to switch and bring up this doppelganger from the 5th layer of the brain, because there's a Fallon tubes that go from one side to the other. And when those are energized, it will go and release that personality because it can cross over and then it can even switch eye color. The whole basis of the Illuminati purebloods is all based on this chimerization principle. The whole process, ancient Egypt, all the way back to ancient Babylon, and even before, they'd pledge themselves and their children and their children's children for all time and eternity with magic hermetic seals to keep it intact. And it would seal it forever, where entities will hold it in place throughout one generation to another. And whenever there's sin involved, it just makes it automatically go forward to the God of this world. This will create a temple inside the child to the God of this world. Remember, I said when there's a weaker embryo inside, the stronger one will eat the other one and it will get all the DNA and RNA. Now, they're going to also how they also introduce different DNA and RNA in there. They're going to make a little petri dish of all this RNA and DNA, and there'll be different species contributing to this. Reptile, animals, you name it. They're going to mix it all in there, whatever they want this child to have, and they will introduce it into the womb. And we all know that a woman's area absorbs everything that's introduced into it. Therefore, it goes into that fertilized egg, and this gets that future child born with a chimera, different DNA and RNA in it. And this all creates a monarch mind control slave. And this is what they do in the occult. Jesus Christ came to abolish everything, all the sin. He can take care of this. He can clean you out if you suspect this in you. This is very, very common. This is 2026. In the mid to late 90s, there was a group of scientists that came together and they documented how prevalent it is in today's world. They made a statement that they said it's almost hard to find somebody who's not a monarch in today's world, as opposed to somebody, who is. It's that common in today. Think about this. It's a lot to digest. It's a lot to take in. Jesus can heal this for you because he loves you. That's why he came and gave his life on the cross. I'm Randy Goodwin. I hope you enjoyed this video, and contact me if you'd like to on my website. God bless you. Bye-bye.